Lewis Hamilton is about to enter a new chapter in his career, but it seems like it's coming up with tons of challenges that the seven-time world champion couldn't have anticipated earlier. After the latest development in Ferrari, and with the team set to have one of the most competitive lineups in the history of the sport, is this the perfect recipe for a ruined chemistry within the inner circles of Maranello? And more importantly, how will Hamilton integrate himself with the Italian culture now that he's the newcomer with so much race and championship winning experience? One of the highest anticipated events ahead of the 2025 season is the Hamilton debut for Ferrari, but it looks like the Brit is not going to have it very easy by any standards. Ferrari is a team that started to rebuild itself under the leadership of Vasseur, and the Frenchman admitted that not taking risks in this sport can definitely kill you. This also applies to signing Hamilton, a move that many saw as risky because while he has 7 championships and 105 race wins in his career, he is now nearing the 40th year of his life, and many are having this picture of an aging legend who came at the right time to retire with Ferrari. According to Vasseur, Hamilton signed with his team to do all but that, as his goals are very loud and clear: win as much as he can ahead of the new regulations. And when talking about it to a greater extent, as well as elaborating more on the moves he did in order to rebuild Ferrari, Vasseur said, "It was a good season with us, certainly with ups and downs like everyone else, but with more ups than downs. It was a very good season compared to 2023. We are heading in the right direction. We have improved in every single pillar of performance: reliability, strategy, pit stops, pure performance. Regarding the KPIs, we achieved 5 wins compared to 1, and in terms of points, we scored 60% more points in 2024 than in 2023. Everyone takes risks. If you don't take risks, you are dead. We know the development of this car. It's never easy because we are on the rise and it's always harder. Everyone is taking risks, and we also have to take risks because 2025 will be a strange season. We'll have to switch quite early to the 2026 project, which means the car we put on track in Bahrain will be crucial." Now, taking risks is something that we are definitely going to expect, not only from Vasseur and Ferrari, but the rest of the grid as well. This is why Hamilton's integration is going to be pivotal, because he is a man who has been known as a driver who relies too much on his team and rarely recalls his own tactics, something that was exposed in 2022 in Zandvoort. Yes, Leclerc also has that mentality, and unlike Sainz, who called his own tactics on the majority of occasions, like in Monaco and Silverstone in 2022, as well as this year's Singapore GP, but there is one primary obstacle that Ferrari would have to tackle down, and that is the competitiveness between both of the drivers. After the Las Vegas GP, we've seen only one thing being made loud and clear by Leclerc. From now on, he is thinking about only himself and no other member of the team. Prior to that, the Monegasque driver admitted that he is always the one respecting team orders, and that never turned in his favour. And now that he has a 7-time world champion hungry for success and to prove that he can win the 8th with the team that circulates around Leclerc since 2019, will be a very interesting development of events that will have to follow through. This is something that didn't happen with Sainz for 2 primary reasons. First, Ferrari wasn't competitive enough for a long enough period of time under the newly regulated era in order to challenge Red Bull. And second, when Sainz had the opportunity, he often failed to convert it to a great result like Leclerc did. Even though the Spaniard closed the gap to Leclerc in 2024 in all areas, it was Shah who fought hard for P2 in the Drivers' Championship and pushed very hard to make up places in order to catch up with McLaren for P1 in the Constructors' Championship. And by no means was Sainz an easy teammate to deal with, but if we're to compare it to Hamilton, the scale is just non-existent. We are talking about a man who pushed a driver into early retirement back in 2016 after winning his one and only championship on his 3rd try, Nico Rosberg. And Leclerc, although successful on his own, is yet to win a championship with Ferrari. Now, according to Christian Horner, there will be division in Ferrari because the tempers will be always high and sparks will fly between these two, as both of them will be aiming towards one thing, the Drivers' Championship. There is no doubt that Ferrari is the team dubbed to win the Constructors' Championship next year under the leadership of Hamilton and Leclerc, but McLaren are going to be a tough nut to crack, while Red Bull would likely have to satisfy with having again only one driver at the front in a constant manner. Be that as it may, Horner believes that the situation in Ferrari could boil to a point of deterioration, and when talking about it to a greater extent, the team principal of Red Bull said, "We're perhaps slightly different to other teams where we go, do you know what? Verstappen is the most valuable asset in Formula One. He is our lead driver. If you can get close to him, fantastic. But the reality is the expectation is for Max to win. A team like Ferrari next year, for example, are you going to have two drivers that are going to be taking points off each other? And which horse do you back? You have to back both of them, but that sometimes becomes divisive within a team. Different teams have different approaches. And there is no doubt that these two are going to be the leaders in the Drivers' Championship as well, because we are talking about a team that is slowly but surely transforming from a Saturday to a Sunday paced one. And what I mean by that is that Ferrari is no longer fast on one lap pace only and then lose everything when points are scored on Sunday. They managed to fix all of the issues with the tyre degradation and have made some extraordinary progress, like the one in Monza where the one stopper of Leclerc surprised everyone as he cruised to win the race, with Sainz scoring P3 with the same strategy. But according to Vasseur, this is something that he would much rather have to fight for P2 or P3 in the Constructors' Championship like he did until now. And while he labelled it as sweet headache, he might want to take an advice from Toto Wolff as to how to deal with two hotheads who will have nothing to lose in the intra-team duels. When talking about it and addressing the 2025 title fight between Leclerc and Hamilton, as well as the sweet headaches that he would have, Fred said, "Yeah, I prefer to fight for 1-2 than for 19-20, that is clear, and I think it's also part of the performance, clearly. The last 2 years I let them race on track and it was for the benefit of the team, because the emulation that we created like this was part of the recovery when we had tough times, and they had huge respect between them, and we had a good moment with Carlos' father in Fiorano, and it was very nice. It's part of the performance of the team." Leclerc himself stated that 2024 was definitely a season without missed opportunities, and there are performances of the car that are yet to be unlocked. But in the second half of the season, the team was more relaxed because they started to learn more about the car and its behaviour. This is a key advantage that he might have over Hamilton, because at the end of the day, it's him who has more experience with the current Ferrari machinery. And while Ferrari are changing the approach for 2025 because they want to compete for the championship even before the new regulations start, Leclerc is much more used to and accommodated to the car's behaviour than Hamilton. Now, you can easily say that Hamilton is understanding his mission quite heavily and with tons of responsibility, because he already paid around 5 visits to Maranello, even though he's under contract with Mercedes, just to make sure that he will understand the technical aspects of the car. For example, he already made some requirements for the next year's car in terms of the cockpit position, and he learned a lot about the technical aspects of the steering wheel, which differ a lot compared to the ones he's used to in Mercedes. But the question remains as to whether or not Hamilton has what it takes in order to become an 8-time world champion. And after some of his statements this year in Brazil and especially Qatar, it's safe to assume that there is a place where self-destruction can creep in and he can spiral out of control if Leclerc takes over the leading baton in Ferrari. Something that Hamilton would have to desperately work on is the qualifying woes that saw him lose the overall duel to Russell in 2024 massively, 19-5. In the sprint races, Hamilton was able to out-qualify his teammate only once, while Russell did that 5 times. It was to be expected given the fact that the 7-time world champion was already departing the team and Mercedes was certainly not giving him the best package to work with in a farewell tour that didn't end precisely as he had it in his mind. But with how he announced the departure to Ferrari, it was to be expected from the Brackley-based team to act this way. However, Vasseur isn't concerned about the one-lap pace of Hamilton and believes that if the car is there, he will be constantly on the front row, as he went on to say, "Yeah, Saturday's performances are important, but first of all, we are well placed to know that it's on Sunday that you are scoring points. But I think we fell a little bit in 2023 also because we were probably the best in quali, but we struggled in the race. It means that we have to keep the focus on the race, a decent step forward in 2024, but we have to keep this approach." Shah, I think, improves a lot on the race management, tyre management between 2023 and 2024. It means that we have to keep the same momentum and the same approach for the next championship. With all this in mind, do you think that Hamilton will have smooth integration within the inner circles of Ferrari? And if so, do you think that he has what it takes in order to take down Leclerc in the intra-team battle after the devastating season with Mercedes? Let us know in the comments below.